Dane Cook, Troublemaker is your most recent stand-up special, which aired on Showtime quite a while ago now, and it is in the running for a variety of Emmy nominations this summer. Tell us about how Troublemaker came about.
Well, first of all, great to be here with you, Robert. Good to see you through the tech. Troublemaker was well. First of all, Troublemaker was the first special I had in, I think it was about a 3 or 4 year break after having kind of simultaneous either CDs or some kind of special or something airing pretty much annually. So to step away for a little bit and to just work on the routine and really kind of dig deep and try to figure out some of the things that I was recognizing and wanting to shine a spotlight on, it prepared me to both get the material up to snuff a little bit longer, letting it incubate a little longer, and also I wanted to direct it and produce it, so it gave me some time to figure out how the hell I was going to do that.
So yeah, you said you directed and produced this along with starring in it. That's a big leap. What made you want to do that, and what is involved in that necessarily?
Yeah, first of all, it's having a great team of people around you. It's having people that are going to come in and have the wherewithal to tell you what has and hasn't worked in the past because of their prior productions. But the reason I wanted to do it was because I think that most comedians have that urge to present their perspective with 100% of the control and how that message is received. Oftentimes, what happens as a comic, especially early on in our career, is we get an opportunity to do a TV set, and suddenly you see it edited, and you lose some of the the oomph that certain pieces of material might get. Maybe that's because it's on network television and some of the content was a little iffy. Or it went on too long and they needed to put a commercial break in there. There's so many elements that might come in and kind of skew your entire performance piece. And I think that's frustrating for a lot of comics, that we don't get a chance to let it live on its on its own laurels. And that was really part of my partnership with Showtime. Was they said we want you to bring this to us in its full form, and we want people to see it as you wanted them to recognize it. So to do that after 24 years at that point in stand-up, it's the first completed performance piece that I feel like I'm sharing, that's from my brain directly to the fans, and that's exciting.
Yeah, so was this developed with Showtime from the start, or was it something that you shopped to various cable networks? How does that work for those of us who don't really understand how this kind of thing gets off the ground?
Right. Well, normally you'll partner up with somebody and they're going to pay for it, and right away you're usually in an incredible union at that point with tremendous resources. But ultimately, they're going to have some say in how much, where you shoot it. They might want to see the material and say, that's really not something we want to get harangued about because of a particular controversial piece of material. That's not something that I normally would have to worry about. I'm not trying to go a route of shock comedy. I just wanted it to be received again in that kind of completed, thought-out process. So I decided to pay for it myself. I, went into my own wallet. I put together a small but mighty crew that were fans and had a great track record of shooting kind of guerrilla style, indie style stuff. And I told them my vision for what I wanted, how I wanted to capture it, and then my goal was to then take it to networks and hopefully sell it at that point. And Showtime was, pretty much an immediate phone call to say what I wanted to hear. We want to air this as you have shot it.
Yeah, that's really typical of a network like Showtime. They're very much about the creative process and letting the creative people do their thing. So that's really nice to hear. And But let's focus now on the title and what this stand-up special is really all about. This Troublemaker thing is really spot on, because when I watched it with my wife, so thanks, Dane, there was a lot of like looks out of the corner of the eye, like, is that true? Do you really do that? So it's all about relationships and how we do stupid things with our loved ones to try to hide things, or we don't want people to see our phone. It was hilarious. I was completely and utterly besotted with this one. So I'm just wondering, give us some of the background of where you come up with some of this material.
Yeah, Troublemaker, the title really came from talking to a couple some months after they'd seen me working on this chunk of material, which at the time I hadn't really figured out what the theme was going to be. I just knew that there was a lot of stuff that was going to be real caustic about our insecurity in relationships, especially in a tech world where we can kind of constantly spy and keep tabs on one another and see each other's history. You can look at somebody's whole history and decide, within a few moments how you feel about them based on how they behaved in their past. That's very fascinating and slightly dangerous. And I've been caught up in it with women that I've dated, and I've been caught in it with women I've dated on the back and forth. But I had this one particular conversation with a couple. They broke up after my show pretty much immediately. And they both had written me these emails and gave me their kind of vantage point about what I said that night and how they received it and why they ended up fighting. And then she wrote me and said it was the best thing. It brought a lot of things to light. And one of them had mentioned something about being a troublemaker, but was thankful that I was a troublemaker because of A, B, and C. And it was that epiphany moment. I was like, all right, that's it. I know that this stuff is true, but it's also going to get me in some hot water. And I know that there's going to be a lot of relationships that are adhered and get stronger from it because they're going to kind of pass these, bullet point type notions, or some people are going to, go their own way because, they're faltering in some way based on this, material that I brought to light. So that's really the inception. And once I had that, I knew that I was going to spend the next year and a half kind of puttering around and figuring out my own, personal perspective. I had dated a girl that I brought to Hawaii, and that whole cell phone bit about the emojis and communicating through symbols and figurines and faces, and that came from sitting on a beach with a young woman that I brought to Hawaii, and we're sitting in this beautiful landscape, and I'm not even kidding you. She spent most of the time on her phone, and when I finally looked over and saw what she was texting, it was emojis of the beach, the sun, palm trees, people swimming. It was like she wasn't experiencing it. And I thank her to this day because that piece is pretty much like the whole center of that special.
That's gold. Love that. And I love, if for people who love your style of comedy, which is really obviously really observational, and you take examples about everyday things and you inflate them and make them funny. Things like watching your phone with those little dots. I mean, that was just a riot for us. We love it. I had just had a text fight with someone that day where I was waiting for those dots, and then happened to watch your show that night and just thought, wow, perfect, spot on, love it. So that brings me to this question.
I just found out that you can actually, there's a little workaround where you can copy and paste the dots so the person thinks that you're writing when it actually you've just sent what looks like you're writing. So they'll probably wait there for a half hour and think you're writing a manifesto.
That's brilliant. I had no idea. Okay, I'm totally going to do that today, so thanks for that. So how do you think this work is different to your previous work, which you're very well known for? Is it a departure or is it a return to what we miss?
Is it possible to say it's a bit of both? It's a return to probably me feeling absolutely present and fantastic and healthy on stage, which kind of harkens back to when people first saw me, Harmful if Swallowed and Retaliation. I felt like I was just kind of the new face, just out of the starting gate, and really nothing to prove except hey, I've got some stuff to say, and if you want to be a part of it, great. And then you go through a few years where everybody's got an opinion, and good or bad, that there's a lot of kind of protecting yourself. And I think when you're in that position, sometimes you're missing out on actually living life comfortably again and feeling like just a normal, 9 to 5 kind of person. And that's where you finally really obtain great observation, I believe. So once I went through some crazy highs and some pretty outrageous lows, I found the last 3 or 4 years were getting back to the simplicity and the love of that genuine connection with the material and the crowd. And I think where it's new is that, I'm an adult now. It's not that same kind of manic. There's still enthusiasm and there's still obviously physicality, but it's not from that unbridled place. Now it's from a writer's perspective. I have a love for vernacular. I like painting, verbal pictures. And so I think now it's a nice synergy of both.
Yeah, I totally picked up on that because you've been doing this for a very long time. You're not a newcomer. You've been through very high highs. I mean, some of your previous works are so successful that you're in this league with people like Steve Martin, George Carlin. And you've had some lows as well because you're so successful. There's been a lot of people who have just been lining up to throw shit at you, and that always happens with successful people. And so you've come through all of this gauntlet, and to me it appeared that this one you were way more relaxed. You still had the energy, but you were really more focused on just grabbing our attention about things that we all kind of get and understand throughout our lives. So I totally picked up on that. So that's just some feedback from me. But I'm wondering, what do you love about stand-up? What is it about stand-up that you love so much that you wanted to go back after such a long break?
Yeah, I think that it's a few things. It's fulfilling something from my youth. I think with a lot of comedians, it's a lot of the things that we are identified for are things that came to light when we were very young, and I think that it's our way of still protecting ourselves. So I think that it's necessity. It's nutrition. It's something that I used humor to quell some pretty scary monsters when you're a young kid and you're afraid with your family. We didn't have a lot of money. I dealt with a father who there was some alcoholism issues in my family. There were tumultuous, hard times, and we dealt with them through humor. So that's always going to be with me. That's always going to be something I need to feel okay. I'm always going to feel safe when I have humor and when I can laugh at and with things that are preposterously difficult and sometimes impossible to manage in life. But a greater part of it is when you stand on stage with an idea, with just a notion, and a group of people, through laughter, through applause, agree. That's basically an audible agreement. Yes, I have thought that. I have that appeals to me. It's a very important connection that I think that we have as people, and it crosses everything. It crosses religion, crosses skin color, sexual preference, everything. It just makes us common. And that's a great feeling, to all feel the same in one room at one moment, whether it's 20,000 people at Madison Square Garden or 25 people at an improv on a Tuesday night. It's, for me and for a lot of comics, I think it's that same expression, and we receive that same kind of again, kind of nutrition that we need to be able to continue forward and want to find new ideas and kind of dig even deeper. It's a great moment when you hear that laugh on something that's never been spoken before, out of your comes from your brain. You share it, and then suddenly it sparks something, and there's you feel a part of a community. You feel a part of something. It's hard to explain, but something that I've had been the good fortune to feel for many years now.
Yeah, and see, I think it's a base human reaction to love to make people laugh. Like even those of us who aren't comedians, if we can do that, it feels great. So to be able to do that for a living must be like pretty awesome to have that. I'm just wondering because in my profession, I look at younger people who are coming through the ranks, and I have certain things that I want to do and say to help them. Do you have that same sense with younger comedians who are coming through? Like, what would you be saying to them that you wish someone might have said to you when you were young coming through the ranks?
I do. I do. I have a really, I have an incredible kind of wealth of situations I've been through, both behind the scenes in the industry, and then just in life itself. Things that sometimes we forget to focus on. Mending fences with family and places that sometimes stand up allows us to run from, where it's like, no, it might be a good idea to go back and configure whatever or finish whatever that was that you kind of left haphazardly. And so I always try to tell younger comics, to try to explore the things inside of you that sometimes tend to we shy away from. We like to run away. We like to run into the performance. But at the same time, when you talk about young comics, there's a lot of competitiveness. There's always competitiveness. And because I was that guy, and I still am that guy, there's still that thing inside you that's like, I wonder if I can do better. I wonder if I can take my comedy to this place that I've never ventured into before. So sometimes you get that with young comics, and I appreciate that. I like seeing that. I like seeing the fire in somebody's eyes where they want to outdo themselves. But at the same time, I'm always there for advice with kind of the crop of the new gang that's going to be the names that people know tomorrow. It's nice to be in that place where I still am learning from the people ahead of me and have some great mentors in comedy, and yet now I get to try to give a little bit of sage advice to somebody who may be heading in a direction that I can tell them it's not worth going down that path.
See, it's a nice place to be when you hit that age. It's also kind of scary because you're like, oh, hang on, I feel like I'm still a kid, but sorry, you're actually not. That brings me to this question. You were finally on Inside Comedy with David Steinberg. I haven't seen it yet, but it raised this question in my mind, which is something I'm interested in when I talk to people such as yourself. Who are your comedy icons? Who actually do you love to watch? Who makes you really laugh?
Well, I grew up really being a student of comedy, and I mean that in the way of I would go out of my way to try to watch every young comedian special. I loved watching Johnny Carson. I would stay up to watch guys like, David Steinberg, who I think was one of Johnny's, co-hosts, who would step in for Johnny multiple times. Incredibly quick-witted, David. David Brenner. All these guys I came up really enticed by that lifestyle and that perspective. But I remember watching guys on the Young Comedian special in particular, and I would watch guys like Dice when he broke out, or Sam Kinison. And I remember seeing, Jim Carrey on his first special. I remember seeing Louis Anderson on a PBS special that he did. I mean, I could name 50 guys, of course, watching, Pryors and Carlins, and growing up watching Cosby and listening to Newhart albums, Lenny Bruce. Just anything I could find, it was insatiable. I really just appreciated whether I was laughing because it was my style of humor or not. Didn't really matter. I just liked the way people wordsmiths and the way they would phrase things, and closing my eyes and hearing certain people's cadence and what helped them get the laugh, what shtick, what attitude. So all those things, it was kind of a bounty. It was like that was my college. My college course was just watching stand-up. And then as I got into stand-up comedy, the guys that I was coming up with, like Patrice O'Neill and Bill Burr and Robert Kelly and Gary Gulman, those were my graduating class, and they cracked me up on a nightly basis. I would be around these guys and making each other laugh. So I feel like I had people around me that were that made me strive to want to be better, but at the same time, we were just kind of cutting it up and having a blast.
And so, finally, what is next for you? Obviously, Troublemaker was done a while ago, and we have awards coming up which you might be up for, but in the meantime, what are you working on? What can we look forward to?
I am actually almost done with my next special. I'm probably going to direct that, I'm hoping, in July. I have my theme, I have the kind of the new idea, really building on Troublemaker and kind of branching into another area of relationships. So I look forward, hopefully in the next few weeks, to releasing some poster art and the title. So if people want to stay tuned on my Instagram, which is Dane Cook, or my Google, or everything's Dane Cook across the board, Twitter, then you'll see some of the new stuff, and I'm going to direct that as well. It's going to have a different look, certainly a different aesthetic quality, but I'm still going to continue in this course of directing and presenting my own material from my heart directly to my fans and hopefully new fans.
Perfect. Well, Dane, good luck with the Emmys this year. Hopefully they recognise Troublemaker in the variety special categories, and obviously good luck with what's coming up ahead.
Thank you so much, Robert. I appreciate it.